Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming, and today a special look at the newly released Empyreal, a single-player action RPG created by Silent Games, which is a tiny team of just 12 people. We were approached to do something we're always happy to hear, which is try the game and then make a video in our usual style. So while this is a sponsored look at Empyreal, we want to thank them for being very relaxed with the request and kind of a perfect fit because of it. So thanks to Secret Mode and Silent Games for sponsoring this video. On that note, be sure to check out the game via our link in the description so they know we sent you. The game just released though on May 8th for PC, PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. But what is Empyreal? Let's get into it. Empyreal is a single player action RPG with multiple weapons and playstyles. There's a progression system tied to your equipment, special abilities, and importantly, personal skill, as we explore this giant and mysterious monolith, an expedition to find out what's going on within. So you could compare this gameplay to like the soulslike genre, but with a few interesting twists on the way it's all laid out, comparable actually to ARPGs with the ability system. Now, as we jump in, you'll create your own character with a classic character creator behind it, but you also choose your character background here, which gives you a character with a unique vibe to start with, different starting gear with different looks, but that background comes up in dialogue options if you wanna, to give you a bit more specific control over the conversations. Personally though, I went with a morose rogue, which started me with a glaive weapon and a very cool look. Lastly, you choose your starting ability from a few options, like Spike to impale enemies with a charge up effect for stronger power, that even detonates any status you've currently built up. Force Punch, which disrupts enemies and generates a barrier that's stronger the more enemies hit, but it also stuns enemies if it destroys a barrier when used. Lastly, the one that I picked, Invigorating Smash, is an AoE that restores your shields while giving you this little boost to weapon power and vigor. So great for setting up and then bursting targets during that. So all of that just gives you your own start to the game, but very quickly I had access to other weapon types and other abilities. But where does it all start for us? We start on an unexplored planet, joining an expedition investigating that strange monolith. It's just this huge structure with a surprising variety inside. It's obviously built by a civilization that we just don't know a lot about, with interesting ancient technology, but the layout and strange nature of the terrain within makes it feel a lot bigger and more open than it might first appear from the outside. So why, how? Those are the starting questions. Our opening actually involves Morris here, a young boy that's being shackled with responsibilities of his now past father, who has surprisingly aged up in our time and is clearly not handling things well with all that responsibility. But we ourselves jump in at the Hub, an expedition staging ground right next to the monolith, featuring various characters who serve their own functions. We'll collect more of them as we go through exploration of the game, like a merchant early on, where we can then get them to go out and collect things for us. We also have the classic blacksmith to identify items we find, mod and upgrade gear, unlock new abilities. There's the quartermaster so you can stock up on consumables you definitely don't want to run out of, sell items to make money here, and other characters to give you direction or context, but importantly, each with their own side quests and story. These side quest lines follow that NPC's personal story, and there's multiple endings based on your choices. So you can fail these, they're given some real depth and relevance. But let's talk about combat. Each weapon has universal concepts, but each one of them comes with its own moveset and playstyle unique to it. So you have your weapon and that playstyle and abilities that you choose to run in combination with whatever weapon and option that you go for, essentially setting up your build. Perfect gameplay can and absolutely will overcome whatever state of your gear or build actually is in, but items and setup and real progression improve that experience and make things easier. Various abilities have bonus effects for the timing or potential status or setup you've already done, and so the skill expression is certainly there, which is important to me for satisfying combat. I mostly played with the glaive, but I did dabble with the other two weapons. So let's start with the glaive. You have a light attack combo, but then quite a lot of mobility and control. So if I do a jump attack, I can teleport to a target. I have a dodge, but also a parry, which if I do against the ranged target can send me right over to them. By dealing damage with any weapon though, you build up a stun meter, some attacks building it more than others. And when a target's stunned, you can do an execute style punish, even working against bosses for massive damage. One of the bosses I was dealing with seemed to stun itself if I got it to charge into a wall, allowing me to get that execute damage off very effectively. We manage ourselves through consumables with healing items, or weapon buffs or throwable bombs, And the enemies themselves have quite an interesting mechanic to them. They have this bar that fills up, telling you what attack's about to happen, and as the bar fills up, it's instantly executed. This initially made me think, okay, well that feels very forgiving, especially for the basic attacks and being able to get free parry timings off, right? But with the variety of attacks being flung your way, and all of the enemies doing it at once, some boss fights with many targets at once, it allows them to go a little bit crazy because, you know, they're giving you the information, you have the warning essentially of what's coming, letting you prep and prepare. But when there's a lot of it happening all around you, it doesn't get so manageable. There's all kinds of different enemies and things you have to deal with. There's melee attackers, assassins, fast attackers, slow attackers, enemies with shields you have to break through or get around, knockbacks, charge shots, explosions, bombs, healers and shielders, stealth enemies that reposition around you, and of course the bosses too. But let's talk about, say, the Mason Shield as another option. There's a training area you unlock pretty early that lets you play around with the weapons in a safe environment. You can actually spawn in enemies of different difficulty to really practice, which is really nice. The Mason Shield, though, has a big shield you can rely on for basic blocking to reduce the damage coming to you, but perfect guarding exists to then follow up with riposte. It has its own light attack combo and a jump slam, but my favourite feature of the Mason Shield is the charge. You hold your heavy attack and then you can charge forward at good distance suddenly, closing a gap or making distance away from whatever's going on. But if you charge it and release it at the perfect time, you go so much further. Meanwhile, you also have the cannon, a ranged playstyle with 3 different ammo types. So you've got the machine gun style, the shotgun, and then like a sniper rifle. Each one can be fired quickly with the limited ammo before you have to reload, or you can hold the attack button to, say with a machine gun, do a barrage of machine gun fire. With shotgun, it's more of a big blast that sends things flying, yourself backwards in fact, and the sniper can transform into a big cannon to blast with for AoE burst. So it's cool, they combine and synergize with one another. You know, you could charge the shotgun blast to send yourself away from the targets, then swap to the sniper to blast them, swap to the machine gun to unleash a barrage as they close in on you. And so when you reload, you get the specific timing to swap between the different modes. It's very cool. The movement's pretty cool with this weapon too. You get this slide evade, which is really nice for moving around targets, but if you evade right at the last moment when you're going to get hit, you perfect evade, letting you do a kind of quick time style triple shot. All of the weapons do come with abilities, ultimates, that vary from weapon to weapon. Glaive abilities that I had were, say, the energy wave, which was kind of a range attack that would pierce through targets. So I'd position carefully to hit many targets at once, or use it to deal with a shield or a ranger. There was also Pommel Strike, which built up a ton of stun on a target that's exposed. But I did take a look at the other weapons and their abilities at least briefly. Shield had things like Shield Blast, Impact Shield, or Shield Gong. Or the cannon had control in the stasis chamber, or mines and defensive stuff like shields. But there were also ultimates. The 2 that I could choose between with Glaive were Elemental Devastation. You'd slam the Glaive into the ground for big AoE damage. It'd instantly detonate status based on your weapon imbuement. But if you didn't have one, it's just this big stun build-up, which was extremely useful in boss fights. The other option was Energy Overload though, instantly removing all my ability cooldowns to allow for kind of crazy spam, and you get bigger damage bonuses based on the cooldown of the ability. All of this is unlocked pretty early into the game, and you use the blacksmith to further customize. But let's continue about different aspects of this gameplay, like the levels. We're going to explore the monolith, which is actually managed by their cartogram system. So the monolith is set in 4 quarters, each with its own theme and design, very much distinct from one another. Inside there, you have different enemies, level layouts, bosses, mini-bosses, that kind of thing. There's hidden areas, loots to collect, chests to open for extra rewards, ambushes and more. Some areas are tight and restrictive, others are massive and open, like you feel like you're outside even when you're in a giant monolith, which is neat. But yeah, that term of cartogram, it's basically their word for level. You're given them through the main story, but you'll find a lot of them too and identify them. It's like a card that you put into the portal to choose what you're going to deal with. So that will have a different layout based on the 4 quarters, a difficulty tag, a list of potential rewards for completing it. So you choose to load up one of your cartograms based on these different factors, what you're willing to risk and go up against. They're not procedurally generated, they're uniquely designed maps, so less formulaic than procedurally generated. The RNG is in the enemies you encounter, the loot potential, what element res you might need, how many lives you have to work with. So you go in with whatever consumables you have, the loadout that you've chosen, and based on the cartogram rule set, you have a varying amount of lives to work with, meaning you can die and go down, but then get another chance, or however many other chances, based on the lives in that level. You get to see all this information like the boss type, the skills it has, the potential drops, if that's something you're worried about, all before you load in. There is a checkpoint system too, so you won't fall too far behind. On that note, there's some interesting minor co-op style features. So it's a single player game, but you can help other players. So after you defeat a boss, there's this tear in the world that spews out extra loot sometimes. That's because another player gifted that item to another player at random, and you just picked it up. In exchange, you could throw something in there and help someone else, and by doing that, again, the item gets a bit stronger. There's also these apparitions, which is like a glowing downed player where one went down in this area, so you could give up one of your revive charges to them and help them out if you feel fine. There's also the mailing system to trade, say, cartograms with friends who maybe have one you want or need, or vice versa. So there's a level of co-op there. But finally for gameplay, let's talk about, say, the bosses. Each cartogram has a end boss, and depending on the context, it could be a strong variant of an enemy you faced before, or a unique big bad to deal with. Like I said, they all have unique mechanics. This big brute would charge into walls and stun itself, or do big AoEs. There was a commander style that buffed up allies, but took damage when you defeated his minions. An assassin agile type that would go invisible. There was the engineer that has these sentry turrets that deal massive blasts of element damage that you need to avoid, but they lock onto you, so you need to perfect evade or even maybe parry them and keep on top of it before it gets crazy. So even in my first few hours, it was a lot of variety to these types of enemies, and it was my favorite part of the gameplay for sure because they're actually quite challenging mechanically. In terms of progression, outside of all of that, every time you come back to the hub, you can speak with the quartermaster and restock, or look at your options, make some sales. You could go to the blacksmith and do some modding of your gear or ID what you found, unlock new abilities and set up a new version of a build or try different things. And the eye level and quality of your gear essentially decides the level of your character. So as they scale difficulty, you need to have better gear. That might mean you need to go back to a previous cartogram to redo it and maybe get something that's lacking and falling behind in eye level. So the RPG elements are definitely there. But that brings me to the conclusion. I've been very impressed by what has been done by a small team. Interesting aspects of skill expression, as well as this kind of RPG or even ARPG style of builds and item and progression. Apparently your first playthrough and unlocking New Game Plus should take you around 15 to 20 hours on average. And I imagine with the side quests and the way those go, you might mess them up in your first playthrough, and in New Game Plus you try something different. All they really asked us to do was talk about the game and let you know that, well, obviously it's out now, and you can use our link in the description to go check it out, so again, they know we sent you. So once again, thanks to Secret Mode and Silent Games for sponsoring this video, and I hope this slight overview of the game was useful. For now then, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.